How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to Lead Therapy, and thank you so very much for taking time for tuning into my video. Just recently, New York's Attorney General said this, and I quote, "In some parts of New York State, you can find a gun more easier than you can find an apple." Just a blanket statement like that, but with no proof or statistics to back it up. So let's take a closer look at some of the actual statistics. Back in 2015, then President Obama misleadingly sought to describe the availability of guns by proclaiming that you can go into some neighborhoods and it's easier to buy a firearm than it is for you to buy a book. There are neighborhoods where it's easier for you to buy a handgun and clips, and that's not my words, that's his words, than it is for you to buy a fresh vegetable. He repeated a variant of the claim even after the Washington Post fact checker determined that the statement was a 3 Pinocchio rated falsehood. Not only was the president playing fast and loose with his language, the fact checker ruled that the statement was just a very strange comment that appears to have no statistical basis. As far as we know, there are no areas in the United States where background checks are needed to buy vegetables. It's hard to drop such a catchy, if completely bogus, talking point, which may explain why a local paper quoted New York State Attorney General Letitia James as saying recently, "What's so tragic in some parts of New York State? You can find a gun more easily than you can find an apple." The problem is, Letitia, New York State is flush with apples. According to the U.S. Apple Association, out of 32 states that grow apples commercially, New York State is the second largest producer of the fruit in the country. Last year, for example, the yield was an estimated 1,385,000,000 pounds of apples. The New York Apple Association even has a Find Apple search feature on its website. Compounding her very strange comment is the fact that New York State, which has an A rating by gun control groups like Giffords, already has what is arguably the nation's most restrictive gun control laws. In fact, Giffords claims that the state serves as a national model. Of course, guns and lawful gun owners are not behind the surge in gang and violent crimes in the state. A friend of the court brief filed by law enforcement groups, including the New York State Sheriff Association and the National Association of Chiefs of Police, in the upcoming U.S. Supreme Court case of the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association Incorporated versus Bruin, emphasizes this point. Evidence and law enforcement experience confirm that most violent crimes are repeated by repeat offenders, whose criminal records generally render them ineligible even to possess firearms. The brief cites an analysis of homicides done by the New York Times, which revealed that more than 90% of the killers in New York City had criminal records, as did more than half of those that were killed. Additional factors fueling the crisis in crime, according to the brief, is the failure of politicians and prosecutors to respond to the accelerating criminality that exploded last year, and the impact of public safety when the politicians defund or delegitimize the police. In New York City, for example, the number of shooting victims increased by 78.6%, with a staggering 165.7% increase in the Bronx alone in the one-year period between May 2020 and May 2021. Fundamentally, the problem is that criminals in New York State aren't looking for healthy snacks and aren't interested in complying with the law. Resorting to silly and discredited hyperbole simply trivializes the violent crime epidemic sweeping across parts of the state. And that is the real tragedy. As always, let me know your thoughts about the story in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, or if I gave you some information you didn't know, please like, share, subscribe, and hit those post notifications. And I will see you in the next video.